is Candace Salima with Turning the Tide, welcoming you back. Now, today, we are going to be sitting with, or actually, not sitting, he is in Arizona, talking with Mike, who is the director of Border Narcotics Intelligence. And we're going to cover a number of subjects today. We're going to cover illegal immigration, border security, and Fast and Furious. So hold on, because this is always a good interview. Mike, welcome to Turning the Tide.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Let's start with illegal immigration. Now, I know that down there on the border, you guys see a lot of things that most of America never hears about. So tell us the kind of things that your agents face as they go out and do their job every day.
Well, we have a large network of people in southern Arizona along the border that actually live on some of the smuggling trails. And they report into us every day with the count of how many went by that day. We have one woman who actually has a trail 75 yards from her front door.
Oh,
and,
no.
Oh, yeah. And she's lived there on this family ranch for years and refuses to move. And we get counts from several people. And the influx of illegal aliens into this country has not slowed down. Contrary to what Janet Napolitano says, our border is still very unsecure.
You know, here's the thing, is it makes me crazy because she was the governor of Arizona before she went to Washington, D.C., right?
She was, absolutely.
And tell me what
Absolutely.
She was saying when she was governor of Arizona as opposed to what she's saying now.
Well, we did a blog posting on this last year, and we got on the governor's website and got some of the letters, and actually, the letters that Janet Napolitano was sending to President Bush are pretty much identical to what Jan Brewer is sending to Obama. Change the names, and it's the same thing.
So what happened? She gets to Washington, D.C. and lost her ability to think?
Well, she gets over to an administration that has another way of thinking and a totally different agenda, and she goes with the flow. She's a hypocrite. So, and
Wow.
There's no nicer way to put it. Just, it's unconscionable.
It really is, because why don't you explain to the Turning the Tide listeners precisely what the citizens of America face on that southern border? And and I'm talking about on the American side, not on the Mexican side.
Well, we have a total influx of the Mexican drug cartels in our country. They're in every major city. They're in every state. They're starting grow operations for marijuana here in several states. They have a network that's been built over the years that is just astounding. A network of drugs. Sheriff Paul Badu, Pinal County Sheriff, here the other day ran an operation with ICE that took out 72 of them. A major hit to the Sinaloa cartel. A major hit, and probably one of the largest drug busts in the state of Arizona. They put a major dent in the Sinaloa cartel's network here in Arizona.
Good for Sheriff Badu.
Yes, they did a really good job on it. And I think now you're probably going to see stepped-up violence with the drug smugglers. They took a very large hit in marijuana, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and heroin. Sheriff Badu's deputies went to stop a vehicle the following day after they announced the operation. And the name of that operation, by the way, was Pipeline. And it went on through the course of a year. The next day, one of his deputies went to make a traffic stop on a vehicle, and the vehicle fled. He radioed ahead. Another deputy was putting out stop sticks. The vehicle then turned towards the deputy and tried to hit him. And he had to dive out of the way. And when they finally got the car, well, they didn't get it stopped. Actually, it rolled over. They found the guy hiding in a drainage ditch in one of the canals. Irrigation canal is what it was. And they got a major load of methamphetamine and heroin out of that, and firearms, by the way. And a couple of these firearms actually traced back to Fast and Furious.
Did that just happen?
That just happened day before yesterday.
Yeah, I remember that story. I read so many stories every day, and I remembered. And that was a Sinaloa cartel as well, right?
Yes, that's who operates primarily in Arizona, is the Sinaloa cartel. The Zetas operate primarily in Texas.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
And does your Texas organization deal with them largely?
Pardon me?
You have a Texas branch, right? A Border Narcotics Intelligence?
Yes, we do. We have people in Texas, absolutely.
And so they deal with what's going on there?
They do. They strictly gather intelligence on the Zetas, the Gulf Cartel, Juarez Cartel, and their people.
Okay, what cartel is on the California border?
Sinaloa, Aurelio Felix used to be the Tijuana cartel, which is very small, and they battle. Sinaloa will battle with any of them, and it's just they're the largest, and they have the biggest network and the most money, and they pretty much go after any other smaller cartels that pop up. Knights Templar is one that just popped up recently, and they're all doing battle now amongst themselves.
Wait, Knights Templar is a cartel as well?
Yeah, it's a newly formed cartel just a few months back, and
do the U.S. Knights Templar, are they part of that too, or is that a different organization? Because I was driving down the freeway and actually I wasn't on the freeway, I was on a city street, and 4 Knights Templar went by on their motorcycles.
Well, that is actually a religious organization here in the States.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yes, but this is what they're calling themselves in Mexico, and they chose that name. Why, I have no idea, but they chose to do that. And they're an offshoot of the La Familia cartel, which is pretty close to out of business. There's a few remnants of it around, but some get off and form their own. You got 3 and 4 people at a time. They go buy some dope, or they get it fronted to them. They call themselves a cartel. You know, it just depends on who has the best smuggling ring. And they got a bunch here a while back from La Familia. Took a bunch of them out. And DEA was involved in that, as well as the sheriff's office in Pinal County.
Tell me how prevalent the cartels are here in the United States. Do they have their fingers all the way to the northern border, or is it sticking to the southern part of the United States?
They are taking down Mexican cartel marijuana grow operations in Ohio, Washington State, Oregon, California.
Utah.
Pardon me? Utah.
Utah.
Utah, Idaho, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, and Chicago has a very big influx of cartel influence.
So in other words, this really secure border that we have is porous.
Yeah.
As can be, and Barack Obama is lying to the American people, as is Janet Napolitano.
Our border is so porous you could pour a glass of water through it. There's total fabrication on the U.S. government's part that this border is secure. They think because they build up a checkpoint, or they take down drugs at a checkpoint or a port of entry, that they're doing something. That is just the tip of the iceberg. They don't tell you what gets through. Far more gets through than gets found. They get drugs every day at the ports of entry. Every day. Large quantities. Marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin. Every day. They don't tell you what gets through.
Do the cartels just count that as the cost of doing business because so much more gets through? Sure.
Absolutely. They do.
Wow.
The vast majority of it gets packed over the border on foot. It's flown over the border by small aircraft, goes into vehicles, and once that vehicle's on the road, the chances of that vehicle being stopped are pretty slim. You know?
Okay, let me ask this. Let's talk human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Every drug mule that comes over the border, are they employees of the drug cartels, or have they been forced because they were trying to get into America?
A little bit of both. Some want to come here to get back with family, come back in for whatever reason they have. So they take on a job packing drugs, and they get here and they stay here. They disappear. They buy an identity, and new identities are a dime a dozen in this country. Driver's license, social security card. There's a bank, a major bank in this country I can't mention, that is under investigation for identity fraud with the illegal aliens.
Really?
And yes, ma'am. And
I could guess.
Yeah, we probably can, and most everybody can.
Yeah.
There's such a foothold that we've actually labeled illegal alien trafficking as organized crime, as well as the cartels, and they go hand in hand. The cartels are going to make their money in any way they can, whether that's human smuggling, prostitution. Car theft is huge, very big here in Arizona. And they steal the vehicles to haul their drugs. You take these fences that they build. Fences slow them down, sure they do, but they tunnel under them. We have seen places in fences where they have actually taken a cutting torch and cut a 10 by 10 hunk out of this fence to drive vehicles from Mexico into our country. They drive them through the desert till they can get to a main road. Then they're off.
Okay, I know you have laughed at me before, but I'm thinking the Great Wall of China would do well on our southern border. That'd be a little harder to tunnel under, wouldn't it?
It depends on how deep you go with a footing on it, because they have tunnels. They have tunnels everywhere. Douglas, Arizona is the tunnel capital of the world.
You know, pretty soon the southern border's just going to drop into the earth.
Douglas, several parts of the street in Douglas, Arizona have. They had a school bus here not a year ago.
Oh, no.
That actually drove over a tunnel on the road gateway. The Sinaloa cartel, has major undertakings in the mining industry in Mexico. They are bigger in Mexico than people think. They run that country. People think that the Mexican government runs it. Think again. The cartels run that country.
Oh, it's obvious that the government doesn't run it and that it is the most corrupt government in the world. Well, maybe not the world, but...
it's pretty close. It's pretty close. That's a good assumption.
Yes, it is. Now,
yes.
I have a friend up here who has been giving me stories on the human trafficking that's going on and what happens if someone refuses to carry the drugs or if they can't pay the coyotes once they come over, what happens. And it's some ugly stuff. I can't even look at the pictures, Mike. In fact, thank you for you guys for posting the warnings on Facebook, so I don't click on the ones like that anymore. I have enough of those to, give me nightmares for a lifetime.
Well, I understand.
Can you explain to my listeners what exactly happens in these scenarios?
Well, in a lot of instances, what they do is they keep them captive. And they contact family members in Mexico or wherever they tell them to get money to get their release. They threaten them with cutting fingers off, killing them, torture. In a lot of instances, they do torture these people. And it's all in order to...
They put them into prostitution as well.
Oh, prostitution. It's huge. The cartels are very big into prostitution.
It's just a terrible thing, Mike. The people... I mean, you know how I feel about illegal immigrants. I don't want them coming here unless they come in through our front door.
Sure.
With identity theft being at 72% of illegals committing identity theft, and then some of the businesses up here were saying that their employees get a new identity, a new social security number every 3 months. So
sure.
We can't even measure the number of Americans directly affected by this type of crime. And that is a huge thing with me. I don't think it's right, and I think illegals need to stay in their home countries and work until they can come in the front door, because that's what all the legal citizens do. But
I agree.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Yeah, with all that said, these people trying to get over the border to come for a better life, because they are coming in illegally, they are the perfect victim. The perfect victim. There's no one to protect them, right?
That's true. You're absolutely right.
It's a horrible situation all the way around, and I lay the blame directly at the feet of both the American government and the Mexican government. Both of those governments could fix this problem and fix it easily, but they refuse. To what
the Mexican government doesn't want to fix it because the people that come here and work, whether they work legally or illegally, send millions of dollars back to Mexico to family every payday.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next, is that the second highest grossing import in their GDP is money from the United States, from the illegal and legal immigrants. And so, of course, they're not going to close that door. But I expect the American government to do what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing in Israel, and that is look to the protection of the American people first. Why do we have to keep coming last? Why are we always last in the eyes of our government? They will pour money into every nation. They look to the southern border. They don't do anything to protect the U.S. citizens on the southern border. Now, ranchers are being killed. People at homes are being burglarized, and a school bus fell through a tunnel, like you said. There's so many things, so much victimization of the American people, and nothing is happening. Now, that brings us to the next topic, which is Fast and Furious.
Sure.
Why don't you give everyone a brief summary of what Fast and Furious is, and then let's do an update on where it is at now, because I know the House of Representatives has subpoenaed the White House because they're refusing to deliver the documents on Solyndra. And so I'm waiting and wondering why Congressman Issa isn't subpoenaing, is that a word?
Subpoena? Yes.
Well, I keep adding yeah, that's not rolling off my tongue here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
When is he going to subpoena the White House?
As the things come down and what evidence they gather and they look at, it's sort of like looking at the paper trail, and you look at the testimony. And during the last hearing that the Oversight Committee had, Special Agent in Charge Bill Newell, who was in charge of the Phoenix office, who actually oversaw the ATF's operation in Fast and Furious out of Phoenix, was before the Oversight Committee, and they knew that he had emailed Kevin O'Reilly, who worked in the National Security Advisor's office in the White House. And they asked him about that, and he said that he would get the correspondence together and get back with the Oversight Committee. Well, the Oversight Committee gets ready to subpoena Kevin O'Reilly to come in, and the White House informs him that he's been transferred to the National Security Agency itself and is on assignment in Iraq. How convenient.
Oh, unreachable, huh?
Mm-hmm. No, he's not unreachable, because they can, if he's on a U.S. base, they can subpoena him there and order him back. Whether they have or not, I don't know.
They can also use Skype to interview him. Trust me, I know.
Sure, absolutely. They can.
Yes.
There's agents there. They can send people there to interview him or whatever. And I'm not so sure they haven't. I'm not privileged to that information. But Fast and Furious was a mess. And the closer you get into digging into it, the thing was entirely contrived to enact more gun laws. Gun laws that this country doesn't need. We have tons of laws. Special Agent Canino, who was out of the Mexico City office for ATF, said in the oversight hearing, we have plenty of laws. Just enforce them, the ones we have.
Absolutely.
We don't need more laws.
We have too many gun laws.
Oh, my gosh. And they don't enforce a lot of them. And then we have Dennis Burke here, the U.S. attorney, who actually worked under Janet Napolitano before this administration. And he's, not prosecuting a lot of cases. And the whole thing was a mess. It's just a major mess. Is there corruption involved with this? I'm absolutely convinced from what I've seen that there is major corruption, and it goes all the way to Eric Holder so far. And I am not surprised. I will not be surprised if it doesn't go all the way to Barack Obama.
Well, they've already traced it to a lower-level aide in the White House already.
Yes, that's Kevin O'Reilly, the one that has been reassigned to Iraq.
Oh, got it. Okay. Sorry.
Yep. And why wouldn't your national security advisor know of a cross-border operation into another country?
I got to tell you, if there's a
the Mexican government, they were never informed of this either. Now
I don't believe that.
We have U.S. Attorney Delaney Brewer, who steps up here the other day before the Senate Judiciary Committee with his very relaxed testimony, and he's up there saying that he saw it, but he didn't put two and two together, and he wishes now that he had done something about it. That's all BS. That is direct BS.
Well, they're all sitting there lying to Congress, which is against the law, and I don't know that this O'Reilly hasn't been tagged as the fall guy for the White House for Obama.
Yeah, that may be true, but if they tag him as the fall guy, I can tell you right now he doesn't make enough money to be one to where he won't talk.
You think he's going to sing like a bird?
There have been several in the DOJ who have came in and sang like a bird.
Really?
Eric Holder and others, Lanny Brewer, have no idea who they are. There have been documents turned over by people. They don't know what documents.
Now,
so
Holder
why they
and Napolitano have just sat there in front of Congress and lied.
Well, of
lied?
course.
When are they going to be called to task for that?
Well, let the investigation go through. If you stop right now and charge them with lying to Congress, you can't use that evidence to use to prosecute them for that in another trial because that brings in double jeopardy.
Oh.
So you've got to collect all your eggs, connect all your dots, get all your people lined up, all your evidence, and when you're confident you've got enough to go to trial to get an indictment from a federal grand jury, then you take it before the grand jury and you get the indictment. Then you charge them. But you don't put the horse before the cart before the horse here.
Yeah, I'm so impatient. I swear. How long has this Fast and Furious investigation been going on?
How long is the statute?
No, not the statute. How long from the time that Congressman Issa formed the commission that was going to investigate this? When did he form that commission?
I believe it was formed back in the spring, and they had their first hearing, I think, in May. Understand this, before that, the investigators were looking for things, and then they get to a point where they start holding hearings for testimony, and they're working on it every day. There's investigators all over this country every day working on this thing. And it's funny you should mention Janet Napolitano. Janet Napolitano knew exactly what was going on, and Congress knows it. And Congress knows it. They can sit there and say, I don't know. But there's a paper trail. Trust me on this. There is a paper trail.
Oh, I believe
and
you.
When they yank up memos and say, well, Ms. Napolitano, we have this memo that went to you on this date, or these memos, and she's probably going to pull the same thing Eric Holder did, is I don't read all my memos. You know.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. She and Holder both are collectively either stupid or negligent, both of which should preclude them holding either of those offices.
Well, I'm not going to give them the stupid one because they're not. They're very smart. They contrived this thing.
Then they're criminally negligent.
They're criminally, they've criminally broken the law, if not international law. You don't smuggle guns. You don't smuggle things into another country without the other country knowing about your operation. Mexico knew nothing about it. ATF in Mexico City knew nothing about it.
Oh, really? The ATF agents there in Mexico didn't tell them?
ATF agents in Mexico were getting guns from the Mexican government from crime scenes to run traces, and they came up no record. They actually blocked it in the computer system here at ATF in the United States to where those guns came from.
Wow.
Special Agent Canino testified to that before the House Oversight Committee on July 27th.
My goodness. What a mess. How long do you see this playing out before it comes to its natural conclusion?
At least another year. At least another year.
Is it feasible that Barack Obama will be out of office before it comes to the conclusion?
Well, hopefully so, because if he's not, he's just going to pardon everybody before the conviction ink's dry.
Oh.
If they end up going, and they get convicted, he's going to sign a pardon. Everybody knows it, and I think that's the original plan.
Oh, so what they do is they drag the investigation out until he's out of office and then slam everybody.
Well, they don't have any say-so on how long the investigation goes, but when charges are brought and then the courts get involved and they bring him up and they set a trial date, if he's in office and they run him through trial and they convict him, Barack Obama can sign a pardon just as soon as the ink's not even dry on the judge's order.
Okay, and now I'll ask the question, what is the statute on this type of crime?
Well, statute of limitations, there is no statute of limitations on murder. Probably 6 to 7 years. I would have to look on that. But as long as it's under investigation, I don't think there's a statute on it once it's open for investigation.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, as long as it's under investigation, there is no statute.
And while I'm at it, speaking of Fast and Furious, why don't you tell me how that fundraiser for Agent Terry went?
It's coming. It's going to be on November 12th in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the International Auto Museum at 6 o'clock. It runs from 6 to 11, and we hope everybody will come out and honor Brian. He was a victim of Fast and Furious. He was killed by one of the weapons that was smuggled across the border to the cartels.
One of our own border agents killed by a weapon sent in by our government.
Yes. Not only that, ICE agent Jaime Zapata was also killed with a Fast and Furious weapon out of Texas.
Yes.
This investigation is going from here, New Mexico, and Texas. This is a lot bigger than people think. This thing is the biggest investigation this country will ever see. Could
this be Obama's Watergate?
This goes beyond Watergate.
Really?
This goes beyond Watergate and Iran-Contra and Monica Lewinsky times 5.
Wow.
This is huge. This is big. And the Democrats keep playing it off.
Oh, well, of course they do. Of course they do. So that brings this next question you may or may not know the answer to. Have they tracked all the weapons they shipped in, or did they lose them once they went over the border? And do they know how many they sent over the border and how many have been recovered?
Roughly 2,500 went across the border that we know of. 700 have been recovered in crimes. Sheriff Babu recovered 2 more day before yesterday.
Right.
There's many that are unaccounted for, and they'll only turn up when they are at their final crime. And you don't know how many crimes they're going to commit before they get to their final one. This is the thing. So far, there is 200 plus people dead in Mexico alone over Fast and Furious weapons. The Mexican people. That's a shame. And that was sanctioned by this administration. 200 people in Mexico and 2 agents here in the United States. 1 death is unconscionable on either side of the border.
It really, really is. But it's more than the death of 2 agents here in the U.S. I mean, the U.S.'s citizens have been adversely affected by this in many, many ways. Am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Who's the next victim of one of these guns? Who's the next victim? It could be anybody.
How do we know we don't have victims already? They just haven't recovered. If they haven't recovered, what is that, 2,300 guns?
2,500 guns was the original figure.
And we've only found 700.
Right.
Oh, no, you're right. So it'd be, whatever.
Well, yeah.
That'd be 50.
Well, there was another 47 here that were confiscated in a traffic stop by Arizona Department of Public Safety, who recovered 47 of them back in the spring in a traffic stop.
Wow.
And then Paul Babu got 2 day before yesterday in that heroin methamphetamine bust.
Okay, that leaves 1,800 guns, 1,800 weapons out there unaccounted for.
Right.
And you and I both know they're being used in crimes. We know that.
They were bought by straw purchasers for that. And they were literally, there was no attempt to track these weapons, none whatsoever. And Bill Newell, in his testimony before the Oversight Committee, said that every effort was made, and it wasn't. Other agents have stepped forward and say, hold the phone here. None of that ever took place. Then you have the head ATF agent in Mexico City sitting there shaking his head, wondering what's going on. Why wasn't he even informed?
Well, let me ask this. Who came up with this? Who decided that they should send 2,500 weapons into Mexico to the cartels and didn't even track them? Did they even try to track them and messed up, or they didn't track?
No, they didn't. Agents were in a position where they saw weapons being purchased by straw purchasers from one gun store in particular in Phoenix. They were called in. They wanted to confiscate the guns, and they were told to stand down. And when these agents stepped up and said, look, this isn't right, something's up, they were told to basically be quiet or find another job if you don't want to be a team player.
Wow.
This went on from Special Agent Voth, Special Agent Gillette, and the lowest level street agent was Hope McAllister, and they have questions to answer. And I believe Congress is going to get them up too here in the next few weeks, probably after the first of the year. And they've got some explaining to do themselves.
Boy, they sure do. The whole thing.
Many agents have come forth on this and said this isn't right. This is not the ATF I work for. It's illegal. It's unethical.
Is rotten. Yeah.
And it was contrived.
To the court. Yeah.
Federal agents don't do anything without the blessing of the Department of Justice. They don't do anything.
That's true. Mike, we need to take a break. When we get back on the other side, we'll finish up this discussion on Fast and Furious, and then we will move to the narcotics part of the conversation, okay? All right, stretch your legs. Be right back.